What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers season has not gone the way that we have all hoped, right? It's been a emotional roller coaster, to put it lightly, and just one that's been really rough. But we have this new sort of life, right? The trade deadline brought this new freshness, this new excitement to this team. And we saw it in the first game with our new acquisitions, with our new players. And they look great. We beat the Warriors on their own home court. We didn't have LeBron. And it just felt good, right? We're like, we got shooting, we got this, we got that, right? And it just really was just this fond moment for us Laker fans, and kind of gave us this hope for this season, but even beyond this season. Even if we don't make the playoffs, even if things don't work out the way that we want it to this season, the idea of like, man, we have this team for the next several seasons, and this roster looks great. We have depth, we have shooting, we have size, we have playmaking, we have 2 stars, we have everything you need for the formula to have success. I mean, you look at this roster compared to like the 2020 team, and it's just like, we didn't have a D'Lo, we didn't have a Vanderbilt, right? Like, it's just like, man, you have these guys that are just, I mean, Malik Beasley is a better shooter than like everyone we had on that 2020 team. We shot 34% as a team with that roster. And it's just like, man, our third best player, most consistent player was like KCP. It's like, man, you got D'Lo, you got several guys that could average more a game than KCP. So it's like, man, you have this formula. We have this excitement, even beyond this season, right? Next season, we get a full rest of this season. We get a full off season, full training camp, full preseason, and we're off to the races, right? This is a team that feels like we can weather the storm without LeBron and AD, because you know LeBron and AD are going to miss games. But the teams we've had the last few seasons, it just didn't really work. And, Russell Westbrook, however you feel about Russ, there clearly was a need for separation, right? Based on reports, things were getting really toxic. Things were getting really bad in the locker room. I believe that it kind of translated, and you saw some of that sort of boil over to this team. Now, personally, I don't like that they made that public and kind of attacked Russell Westbrook's character. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that that's a good look for the Lakers. I think that you keep that stuff in-house, and maybe the Lakers didn't plan on that getting out, right? Who's to say that the front office is the one that put it out, or that Genie or whomever? Could have been just somebody inside the Lakers. But even then, it's not a good look. And it's something that also jeopardizes potential players who may want to come to the Lakers. One of the big reasons LeBron came to LA, outside of he wanted to elevate his career beyond basketball, but it was also the way that they treated Kobe. That was very valuable. And yes, there was rough seasons towards the end, and there was a lot of questions of should the Lakers have given him all the money that they did, or should they have focused on building a roster? But that was huge, because it showed the Lakers look, even if you're at the tail end of your career, if you're loyal to us, we're loyal to you. We'll take care of you. And look, Kobe, in my opinion, deserved that and more. What he did for the franchise. I would gladly sit through, several years of just dismay to just honor Kobe and what he did for this franchise, because we weren't going to win regardless. Who were we going to get at that time? The idea was, okay, we have Kobe, pay Kobe his money, and then we grow and develop these young guys. And then LeBron ends up coming, and we go get Anthony Davis, and the rest is history. We end up winning a championship, and the last few years haven't been as good as planned, right? It does feel that the Lakers should have won that second year. If Anthony Davis doesn't go down, I actually think it's very likely that it could have happened. We were running through the Suns. They had no answer for Anthony Davis. We were up 2-1, looked like we were going to go up 3-1. LeBron James is making Jay Crowder his son, and then all of a sudden AD gets hurt, and we just didn't have enough. And Dennis Schroeder, after he got COVID, was never the same player, and it just fell apart. Okay, not a big deal. Let's regroup. Except we didn't regroup, right? Then we do the rust thing, and then that became a problem, and it just hasn't worked since. But now it's like we got the roster we needed. We got the talent, we got control, we got flexibility, we got the pieces that we can have for the long haul, for the longevity. And that is huge. That is valuable even beyond this season. But things are still looking very bleak, right? I mean, Anthony Davis, he hasn't looked the same. He's looked just disengaged at times. He's looked just out of sorts. Now, he has said that he's trying to get his legs back underneath him, which very well could be the case. Anthony Davis, it took him like the first 15 games of the season to kind of get to that dominant Anthony Davis. So that very well could be what it is. There's concerns that his injury is still a lingering thing and that he's still injured. That could also be very well the case. But Anthony Davis, regardless, his demeanor hasn't really looked the same. And according to him, from his words, which I feel like, why would we take anything otherwise? Why would he lie? He said that it's because of we're losing. And I can completely understand that. At some point you got to get sick of losing, right? Like you feel like you're a better team. You feel like you should win these games. The Blazers game, that game, I mean, come on. There's not a team in the league that was beating the Blazers that night. When you're shooting that elite, and yeah, could Darvin have done this, that, and the other? Sure, but you're not going to stop these guys from shooting 80% from three. You're just not. Could you have double teamed Damian Lillard? Sure, but it's not like he was the only. It's not like he shot and made 20 of the 23 threes. No, he made 8 of them. So everybody was hot. It was a bad game. It just sucks. They happen all the time. I mean, the Thunder blew out the Celtics by like 40 or 50 or something crazy like that. It happens. The problem is that the Lakers are in such a bad hole, we can't really afford that. And it's the Portland Trail Blazers where it's like, man, that's a team that we're chasing that's in front of us, that we need that win. We need that for tiebreakers, all kinds of stuff, right? Where like, say it was the Chicago Bulls. It's like, yeah, it sucks we took that loss. Yeah, it sucks that they shot the lights out, but at least they're not a team in front of us. At least it doesn't really affect if we get into a tiebreaker situation or something, right? Like, that is a big thing. And Anthony Davis, we need him. I've said from day one, we go as far as Anthony Davis takes us. Anthony Davis, he's a guy that he's shown the capability of being that monster, of being that guy, the guy we had hoped. I mean, defensively, he's unmatched, right? The closest thing to probably Anthony Davis is Giannis. Him and Giannis, in my opinion, are 1A, 1B as far as like defensive impact. And Anthony Davis is just huge in that regard. But something's off with him. And whether it's the injury, whether it's just frustrations, whatever it is, right? Something clearly going on. And Anthony Davis has deactivated his Instagram, and that's caused, of course, a lot of controversy, a lot of questions. Now, could be a multitude of things. One, I'm sure he doesn't want to hear all the fans bashing him and talking about how he's just this, that, and the other. I'm sure that gets frustrating too at times, because it's not just all on Anthony Davis, right? But people like to find that scapegoat. People like to find that person to blame. And it's like, well, now Russ isn't on the team, so who's next? Well, Anthony Davis, Darvin Ham, right? Like, so I get in that regard. He probably is just like, I'm sick of listening to people, right? I would probably be too. So I completely get him maybe wanting to deactivate. It also could just be maybe he wants to get focused, right? I mean, LeBron, playoff LeBron, historically, what does he do? He turns off his social media. He goes MIA, and he focuses and hones in on the task at hand. I'm hoping that that's what it is with Anthony Davis, right? I really am. I'm hoping that that's the case. But even then, like, Anthony Davis has to be better. LeBron James has to be better. And I'm not talking about even just playing. I'm talking about leadership, staying on the court, finishing games, being vocal, all of those things. It's more than just like going and getting 40. We don't need Anthony Davis to go get 40 and 20 every night. I don't mind, like, the Warriors game. I didn't mind. I know people were upset and were like, oh, we needed more from him. But we won the game. And the guy gave us 13 and 16. He had a bad game, but defensively he was great. He made some huge plays down the stretch, and we won. We don't need him to put up some monster numbers every night. Guys have bad nights. It happens. But it's consistency. It's that drive. It's his demeanor, right? That's a big thing. And not even just the guys. I mean, the coach too. Darvin Ham has to be better. I've been a huge defender of Darvin Ham. I think he has a lot of great qualities as a head coach. I do think that he has been flawed in many ways. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. He's had games where he's coached brilliantly. Like, I thought the Warriors game was his best coaching performance we've seen. He had a set game plan on the offensive side, on the defensive side. He was decisive with his rotations. He let guys stay. He let guys weather storms. He allowed guys to, if they were hot, to stay in the game, which was a problem he's had in the past. He never allowed Golden State to get out on these big runs, and he would call timeouts at the proper time. I thought it was a mastery in coaching. I thought he did a fantastic job. And then, again, I don't really hold the Blazers game to him. Not really much you could do. When a team's shooting that hot, your hope is that they just cool down and you can get back into the game, but they just never did. So I don't really hold the Blazers game to Darvin Ham. Drop coverage when a team's shooting that hot is probably not the best, but, they basically took away all of the interior. They took away all the 2-point shooting. They shot better from three than they did overall from the field. So I do get why Darvin Ham did what he did, because the idea was like, okay, these guys have to cool off. I mean, they're shooting insane. At one point they were like, 10 of 12 from three or something like that, or 9 of 12 from three. So your hope is that they cool off, and then if they can't knock it down from three, you're already playing the coverage to prevent them from scoring, and now you can go on your run. I get that. Didn't work out, whatever. Take the L, move on. We have a very important game coming up. We have a very important stretch. We have 24 games left. We need to go like 18-8, 18-6 or something like that, or 16-8. Something along those lines with this upcoming schedule. And look, if you look at the schedule, it is not unlikely that with this team, if LeBron James and Anthony Davis could stay on the court, that we could do that. Outside of like a handful of teams, most of those games that are coming up on the slate, you look at and go, okay, like those are at least winnable games, right? We'll see how good the Suns are because we play them a couple times. Memphis, I think we could still beat. We play them a couple times. You're probably not going to beat them both times, but I think that they're winnable games, right? You play the Clippers. Clippers always just seem to have our number. But you never know, like maybe you win a game or two against the Clippers, right? But outside of that, it's like the Rockets a bunch of times. You play the Thunder a couple times, play the Bulls twice, which I think are both winnable games, right? You're playing all these teams that you look at and go, man, like we could win all of those games. And so I do believe that we can turn it around. I don't believe it's too late for us to get into the play-in. Luckily, two of the teams in front of us, although they have won as of late, they're not trying to make a push. Right, like the Thunder made some moves that were kind of like, okay, you're trying to lose a couple more games than you would have otherwise. And then the Jazz obviously made a couple moves where it's like, okay, you're trying to lose games otherwise. And Portland, in my opinion, I think Portland got worse. Look, I know they just shot the lights out, but that's like Thibault is not shooting 4 or 6 from three on a regular basis. That's just not happening, right? Like you can live with that. I think in general, I think they got worse. And so they should start regressing a little bit, in my opinion. They've been a hot team, though, as of late in general. They were like number one in offense the last like 10 games going into that Laker game last night. So they're hot. Hopefully they cool down. We'll see. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain the level of play that they're playing, but you never know. They may be able to. But regardless, we need to win games. That's what it boils down to. Win the games in front of you. And I think we make the play-in. And if we make the play-in and then we make the playoffs, good luck trying to beat us. I'll take our chances if we get into the playoffs. But Darvin Ham has to do a better job. He does. He has to be better. We need more of like the Warriors coaching rather than some of the other coaching. And in my opinion, a bad sign is the news we got today about Dennis Schroeder, right? Like, I completely get, I'm not going to go in too much depth in this because I have an entire video talking about it. So check out that video after this one. But to kind of summarize, I understand what Darvin Ham is trying to do. He's looking at it as Dennis Schroeder and D'Lo play very different styles. And that was one of the things that worked really well against the Warriors. The Warriors had a hard time guarding both of them because they're so different. So it's like, what sets are they going to run? How are they going to run this? Schroeder's very downhill. Schroeder's closer to Westbrook than he is to D'Lo, right? D'Lo's slower, more methodical, operates in the mid-range, likes to slow it down and operate in the half court. Where Schroeder, he's kind of a downhill drive and kick type point guard. It makes sense without LeBron James. With LeBron James, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because what you're going to get from Schroeder, you're now going to get from LeBron James, which is the primary ball handler, the driver, and kicker, right? That's the idea. That's what Schroeder brings you. A guy that can get and penetrate and finish at the rim if you need him to, or kick it out, right? So, but with LeBron, Schroeder's not going to be the primary guy. LeBron's going to be the primary guy. So it doesn't make sense to have LeBron with two other primary ball handlers, right? D'Lo can play off the ball and shoot well enough to where he could play off of LeBron James. But Dennis Schroeder is really hot and cold with his shooting. Now, if he's on some nights, cool, it could work. But most of the time, he's going to shoot around his average, which is not going to make a lot of sense. Where is why you should start like an Austin Reeves or a Malik Beasley or even like a Troy Brown, right? But I don't mind the idea of Beasley coming off the bench. Because if you start Austin Reeves, then that always gives you two sort of elite shooters, right? You got D'Lo, you got Reeves, both, 38 to 40%. And then you have Beasley, who can come off the bench, give you, 40%. And he'd probably get more volume off the bench because he's a volume three-point shooter. So he'll probably get more shot attempts off the bench than he would in the starting lineup. So I don't mind it. But to me, there's a clear-cut sort of rotation in lineup. And Darvin Ham has to get set lineups. I know it's hard when AD and LeBron and guys are injured and stuff, but now guys are healthy and starting to come in and we got all these new players and stuff. You got to get clear-cut lineups. And to me, we have these clear lineups. You have, obviously you're going to have small adjustments. Like let's say you play the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? You're probably going to start Mo Bamba and Anthony Davis just to match the size. Okay, I get it. But against most teams, you can run the exact same lineup. AD at the 5, LeBron at the 4, got D'Lo, Reeves, and then, in my opinion, I think you start Rui. And the reason I think you start Rui is for the scoring, because we usually get off to slow starts. And then I think you run the same unit, but you close with Vanderbilt for the defense. If Beasley's shooting the lights out that game, then you swap Austin Reeves with Beasley, right? But to have Austin Reeves in the starting lineup, he plays really well off of LeBron James. You get another ball handler, so you kind of get what you want with Dennis Schroeder. Darvin Ham loves the ball pressure guards, right? But we don't have a Drew Holiday. Like what Darvin Ham wants to do makes a world of sense if you had like a prime Patrick Beverley, or you had a Drew Holiday, or like a Tony Allen type player, something like that, right? That makes a lot more sense. But with Dennis Schroeder, yes, he's a guy that he can guard the ball all the way up, but he's not that elite lockdown defender. He is good fighting over screens. He is good in certain spots, but he's not a lockdown defensive point guard. That's just not who he is. He's pesky. He's a guy that, can get after it, high engine, high motor, can keep going. I understand what Darvin Ham's thinking. I just think with LeBron James, doesn't make a ton of sense. But okay, if that's your lineup, stick to it, right? Because we just need some stability, right? We need stability. So if that's what you want to go with, fine. Then now you got to work it out. I don't like the idea of Austin Reeves as your primary ball handler off the bench. I don't mind him in spots, little stretches here and there where he's kind of operating as your point guard, fine. But come playoffs, it's not really going to work, right? So my concern is then you're going to end up wearing down Schroeder or D'Lo because you're going to have one of those guys essentially in the game at all times. So you're going to have one of them playing like an insane amount of minutes. So that's kind of why I'm like, well, you might as well just bring Schroeder off the bench because then you don't have to wear him down playing him, the entire first quarter and then, half of the second quarter, stuff like that, because you're trying to get guys rest. Like, I don't really understand it, but we'll see. We'll see. If it works, great. Darvin Ham's going to look like a genius. If it doesn't work, then Darvin Ham's going to look silly. But time will tell. Regardless, we need stability. And to further add to stability, we need our two best players to play basketball, right? Look, LeBron James needs the rest. Don't knock him. I don't mind him getting a little break here. It's just, again, the position we're in. We're not in a position where he can really miss games. We got a game without him. Great. But we need him going forward. He's going to get a nice little break, right? So he's probably going to play the Pelicans game, probably play the All-Star game. Okay. He's going to play those games. And then we have like a week off before our next game. So LeBron's going to have rest. AD is going to have rest because AD isn't an All-Star, which might be the best thing. Sucks for AD. I do think he deserves to be an All-Star. But regardless, that might be the best thing for Anthony Davis. And that could also go into just Anthony Davis's frustrations, right? That could be it too. But in general, Anthony Davis needs the rest. LeBron needs the rest. Okay, get your rest. And let's come back and let's go on a run. They have to play. If they're going to miss another 10 games, season's over. Pack it up. Like, a game here and there, okay, maybe, as long as it's not both of them, but we can't even really afford that. We need LeBron James and Anthony Davis to play. Figure it out. We have the roster now, in my opinion, to where you don't have to play LeBron James 40 minutes. That's huge in and of itself and should help him stay on the court more. Same thing with Anthony Davis. Once Mo Bamba comes, and if he can just be a solid, I'm not even saying he has to be a lead or anything like that. Just come in and be solid and just be what we need him to be. A shot blocker, floor spacing big, perfect, right? Then you should be able to get LeBron James and Anthony Davis to around, 30 to 32 minutes per game and still win these games. Of course, there's probably going to be a game here and there where you're going to have to play, against like the Clippers, you're probably going to have to play them 40 minutes, whatever. But it gets like teams like the Rockets, teams like, the Jazz, we play a couple times. Like, you should be able to beat those teams and play these two guys like 30 minutes. You should. We have enough talent and enough just everything to do that. But these guys have to stay on the court. They have to play. Anthony Davis has to figure it out. LeBron James, he's been Mr. Durable. He has to continue to be that. We need these two guys. If these two guys can't stay on the court, it's over for us. That's it. It's a wrap. So we need these two guys. Look, Rob Pelinka did his part. He went and got the players. He revamped the roster for not just this season, but going forward. Great. Now, Darvin Ham has to do his part. LeBron James and Anthony Davis have to do their part. And we got to start rattling off. We're still there. I don't believe it's over. If we lose another like 9 games, then yeah, it probably is over. But until that happens, it's the whole Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance that, yes, there is a chance. And I still believe we have more than enough talent to figure this out. We're going to have to figure it out. It's going to be clunky at times because it's a brand new team, right? But just from a talent standpoint, we should win more games than we lose, right? The chemistry, that'll come. Hopefully, we can get that before we get into the playoffs. And then good luck. If we can get into the playoffs, good luck. I like how we match up against every team in the Western Conference. So, you trust your guys. But again, Rob Pelinka did his job. The rest of the guys need to do their job. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with everything that I said? Do you disagree? Is there other points you'd like to make? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments.